Hello and welcome back to our devotion time together, and today I will be reading out of the book Sermons, Biblical Wisdom for Daily Living. And today's topic is opportunity, and the title is Redeeming the Time. Our scripture for today comes from Esther chapter 4, verse 14, that reads, "And who knows whether you have not come to the kingdom for such a time as this?" The hero of the story is neither youthful nor rich. Surely he isn't powerful, and unlike Robert Redford or such other hero as our age has provided for us, he probably isn't handsome. He is an old Jew named Mordecai. Now there was a Jew in Susa, the capital, whose name was Mordecai, the son of Jair, son of Shimei, son of Kish, a Benjaminite, who had been carried away from Jerusalem among the captives with Jeconiah, king of Judah, whom Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, had carried away. He had brought up Esther, the daughter of his uncle, for she had neither father nor mother. The maiden was beautiful and lovely, and when her father and her mother died, Mordecai adopted her as his own daughter. Mordecai is important to our story, not only because of his kinship to Esther, but because he represents the continuity between the Israel that was before captivity and the present age. His life transcends the transition between what was and what is, and in his person is that living continuity. Now, in the Hebrew festival of Purim, which the Jews keep in February or March, and which commemorates the story of Esther, comes one of the Bible's most convincing villains, Haman. Haman was a descendant of the ancestral enemies of the Jews, and a local boy who made good. He made so good that the king, Xerxes, promoted him to Grand Vizier, a sort of press secretary plus, and required that all do honor to him. Now you know how little people with a little power and a little prestige like a lot of show. Haman had made it. He had it made, and he wanted all to be conscious of his new place in society, and on the matter of his unsatisfied pride literally hangs our story. There is one more minor character, a figure, as it were, and that is Queen Vashti. She was very beautiful, and one might presume, as the wife of the king of Persia, a woman of some influence. On the night when the king was giving his grand banquet, after consuming a lot of liquor, he determined that the queen, giving a dinner for the women of the court in another place, should be summoned to him to be displayed to his drunken and probably lecherous old guests. The chamberlains scurried off to deliver the royal decree to the queen, and she did what was then unheard of. She refused to come. She declined to be the after-dinner cordial for her husband's menu, and he and all his court were astonished. What should be done with such a woman? For surely, if nothing is done, her willfulness will encourage every Persian woman to similar disobedience. And right they were. Queen Vashti's dignity, or perhaps from the court's point of view, her disobedience, caused problems. Wise men were consulted and concluded that she should be deposed and that another should take her place. This was done, and the king conducted a beauty contest throughout his kingdom, looking for a Miss Persia to succeed his Queen Vashti. It is thus the dignity and deposition of Queen Vashti that made possible the appearance of our heroine, Hadassah, or Esther, soon to be Queen Esther, for, as we all know, she was beautiful and fair to look upon. When Esther was paraded before the king, he took to her and had her placed in his harem, where she was soon to rise to exclusive favor and to win the title of queen. She did not reveal the fact that she was a Jew. Now, the king liked Esther, not only because she was pretty and young, but because through her cousin Mordecai, she had given him information about a plot on his life. He had uncovered the plot, executed the villain, and established a strict security squad about his person, headed by our friend Haman. Now, at the point of our reading, Haman is bothered because of Mordecai's refusal to pay him sufficient homage, and is resolved to take revenge not only upon Mordecai, but upon all Jews in Persia, on the grounds that they were unwilling to be assimilated into the culture. The rest of the story is perhaps familiar to all of us, how Haman sent his goon squads out to round up and destroy the Jews, and how Mordecai, fearing for his people's survival, urged Esther to intercede with the king for their preservation. This, of course, where the story's tension builds, for it is an unbreakable law of the Medes and the Persians that the queen does not appear before the king unless she is summoned by name, and the king hadn't summoned Esther in some time. To enter the court is a dangerous presumption, and also the king is unaware that Esther, his favorite, is a Jew. Worst of all, Esther is herself totally unaware of what is going on because she is hidden in the perfumed recesses of the harem, quite apart from the political intrigue of her husband and his court, and from the dangers to her people. It is her raggedy old cousin and guardian Mordecai who, through eunuch messengers, informs her of the dangers to her people and of their need for her intercession with King Xerxes. Esther had a great deal to lose: her position and security as queen, her very life as a newly discovered Jew, and besides, what king bent upon his will would listen to the political advice of his queen, beautiful and talented though she might be? Not only did Esther need to be informed of the plight of her people, but she had to be persuaded of her duty in that plight. She explained her inability to act, but Mordecai, unconvinced, reminded her that her security was precarious at best. Think not that in the king's palace you will escape any more than all the other Jews. For if you keep silence at such a time as this, relief and deliverance will rise for the Jews from another quarter, but you and your father's house will perish. And who knows whether you have not come to the kingdom for such a time as this? It is a telling argument, persuasive on many fronts, and as we know, Esther was persuaded. Go gather all the Jews to be found in Susa, she said, and hold a fast on my behalf, and neither eat nor drink for 3 days, night or day. I and my maids will fast, and as you do, then I will go to the king, though it is against the law, and if I perish, I perish. Esther did not perish. Through courageous wit and wisdom, she won the confidence of the king, entrapped Haman and his family upon his own gallows, preserved her people from slaughter, and saw her cousin Mordecai elevated in rank next to the king himself. To this day, the Jews keep Purim as a festival in which they commemorate these events of their deliverance and celebrate Mordecai and their intimidable Queen Esther. The point of the story of Esther is lost upon us. However, if we are simply turned on by one more of God's dirty tricks, one more account of militant preservation, the story of Esther is an intimate story about personal opportunity, and the victory worth celebrating is the victory that Esther makes over herself when she confronts that opportunity and accepts it to her own possible detriment, and yet to the possible salvation of her people. I like to think that it was a struggle. I like to think that between verses 14 and 15 in the 4th chapter of Esther is a drama of inner passionate conflict between the security of the moment and the risks of the future. Surely she, like her ancestor Moses, when confronted with a similar opportunity, might have said, "Who? Me? Why? What can I do? I can't speak. Send someone else." Opportunity is the season here, and it is a season of great distress. Opportunity is also crude and rude. It comes and either you seize it or it passes you by. Opportunity does not admit of too much debate, and because we can never be prepared for opportunity, it requires a response written in faithful resignation. Isaiah seized his opportunity in the midst of the smoky temple with the words, "Here am I, send me." Esther, confronted with her opportunity in the message from her guardian, said, "I will go to the king, though it is against the law, and if I perish, I perish." Jesus, after his agony in the garden, resolved, "Not my will, but thine be done." The text, is it not a text about opportunity itself? "And who knoweth whether thou art come to the kingdom for such a time as this?" Surely to the mind of a good Jew like Mordecai, a Jew who had known God's providence not alone to himself, but to his fathers as well, opportunity was no capricious accident. Opportunity was the means by which God operated with his children. We might not understand every step and every detail, but somehow the purpose is there, to be revealed at the right time. So must Mordecai have thought. His ward, a good Jew, a concubine in the heathen Persian's court, surely this is what it is all about. Surely, who knoweth whether thou art come to the kingdom for such a time as this? I've told you before about the ancient lady in Plymouth who, upon reaching her 90th birthday, was asked the familiar and by now inane question, "To what do you owe your many years?" "To time," she said. "Time indeed, for it is all that we have." Miss Minnie observed, "The Lord has kept me around for a mighty long time. I guess he still saw something and sees something for me to do, so I'll keep on trying to find out what it is." I am convinced, like Miss Minnie, that God has indeed set us here to redeem the time and effect his will. We are here, and not in the 18th or 19th century. We are here, not in 2nd century Bible land. We are here because we, like the men and women of their day, have both a place and a purpose. The civil rights movement, the anti-war movement, the ecology movement, the women's movement, the movements for ethnic freedom and dignity, the movement in search of meaning and values. These movements are not accidents of sociology upon our neutral landscape. They are the legitimate movements of our time, movements through which God can and does speak to us of our opportunities for redemption and hope. Idolism has always been out of fashion, especially in a place where cynicism is a cheap substitute for wisdom, but it is the energy of the ideal, which in seeking its redemptive opportunity has made and can make the children of God more than passive spectators of passing time. Such idolism requires an interior strength with which to meet our godly opportunity. One person wrote of this in their rousing poem, "Be strong. We are not here to play, to dream, to drift. We have hard work to do and loads to lift. Shun not the struggle. Face it, 'tis God's gift. Be strong. Say not the days are evil. Who's to blame? And fold the hands and acquiesce, oh shame. Stand up, speak out, and bravely, in God's name. Be strong. It matters not how deep entrenched the wrong, how hard the battle goes, the day how long. Faint not, fight on. Tomorrow comes the song. And who knoweth whether thou art come to the kingdom for such a time as this?" Thank you for joining me, and I will see you next time.